this island, they somehow think a good defense is to say, "Oh, my children were with me." Jesus Christ! Like,
I mean,
what's wrong with you?
I mean, bring your children. There are people who were telling Epstein their children were around when they were inviting him to hang out in the files. So
I don't know. I mean, I guess my question is, who gets thrown under the bus, right? Is it Pam Bondi, who I think actually has the hardest job of all of these people because she has to go out there and be the public face of all of this? Like, we're talking about how poor her strategy was, but like, what was the good strategy, I guess, is the real question, aside from quitting. Then you have all of these other members of the administration who have been palling around with Mr. Epstein, with or without their children, apparently. And Donald Trump sometimes seems like he's ready to cut them loose, but then he's not. I don't know.
The real problem is they haven't charged a co-conspirator
Yes.
yet. If she had something new to talk about and to say, DOJ is moving this forward, we're, pressing
they've said the exact opposite. They said the exact opposite.
If they would have done what they were supposed to and released the 302s, which would have named the people that the women came out and said this happened, who did it under oath, who was one. But those names have been redacted. Yeah. And that lies the problem why no one from the left or the right or the middle trusts what the Department of Justice is doing right now.
And the terrible treatment of the women, too, the victims.
And what I would say is, look, after the landslide in 2006, George Bush famously stood and did a press conference and fired Donald Rumsfeld. I do think that there will be a landslide in this upcoming midterm, and the aftermath of that will result in Donald Trump firing all of these individuals who have lived total immoral professional backgrounds, but more than that, have been totally incompetent during their time.
Or
if you fire all of the incompetent people, who's left?
Well, I'll tell you the one person that he won't fire that he absolutely should is Stephen Miller. And we don't talk about Stephen Miller nearly enough. The way in which we have individuals in this administration who have never received a Senate confirmation actually pulling the strings of multiple departments is not only unconstitutional, but it also speaks to kind of this underlying web in this administration for who's pulling the reins of power and who's actually accountable for this.
Well, he's also a man on top of it. I mean, I think that you have Pam Bondi and Secretary Noem under the knife because they're women, too. Like, Trump is much more apt to let a woman go than he is a Stephen Miller, which is unfortunate.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll see. So far as I know, Stephen Miller is not in the Epstein files, so maybe he's not on the hook for that, but maybe something else. Max and Susan, you are sticking around.
He's probably a little too young to be in the Epstein files. If he was 10 years older, he'd be in.
We begin this hour with Republicans increasingly fed up with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Epstein files. Here's what Republican Congressman Thomas Massie said just this morning.
Do you still have confidence in Pam Bondi as Attorney General?
I don't think Pam Bondi has confidence in Pam Bondi. No, I don't have confidence in her. She hasn't got any sort of accountability there at the DOJ.
Ouch. That comes after Bondi clashed with lawmakers this week over her handling of the Epstein files, including this startling moment between Bondi and our next guest, Vermont Congresswoman Becca Balint. Watch.
Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing.
Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once. When he was
weak sauce.
And also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Jewish.
I
just want to be clear. Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust.
Congresswoman Becca Balint joins us now. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. I want to begin, actually, with the unredacted files that you and your colleagues got a chance to look at last week and the subsequent allegations of spying by DOJ officials that followed. What tipped you off to all of this? Was it apparent in the moment when you were looking at these files that something shady was happening?
Yeah, so the whole thing from the beginning seemed shady, from the fact that they were changing the rules on us about what we could bring in. First, we could bring in our notes, then we couldn't. Then we could bring in sticky notes, then we couldn't. Then we had minders. So there's 4 computers in there, in a small little room. You have a minder sitting right next to you watching everything you're doing. And then if you noticed, they had a discrete login for each of us. So that was concerning to me because I wanted to make sure that they weren't able to print out our searches. But it turns out that's exactly what they were doing. And we saw that in the hearing. They had a copy of Pramila Jayapal's, my colleague Pramila Jayapal's searches that she had done. And actually, before I left my office on the Hill to go to DOJ, one of my staffers who's been on the Hill for a long time, she said, I can't believe I'm going to say this to you, but I need you to assume you're being surveilled. And she was right. And it is, it goes along with everything that this administration has shown us in terms of how they're conducting DHS. It goes along with what people in the field are saying in terms of what ICE officers are saying to them about American citizens being tracked. But certainly I never thought my own Department of Justice in the executive branch would be spying on the legislative branch. It's very chilling.
Congresswoman, I want to go back to that last exchange that we just heard there in the clip that Catherine played between you and Attorney General Bondi. Your grandfather was murdered by Nazis. And then it seems somehow she's trying to tie your desire to know more about what happened to these victims, these survivors, to anti-Semitism. Can you just break down for us what the heck you think was going on there?
So 2 things were going on there. We knew based on her behavior in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee that she was going to come with a list of insults. And I suppose it's to my credit that she didn't have a whole lot of dirt on me that she could bring forward in her so-called burn book. But she went really low. And, you know, certainly her staffers were looking up my votes, and they decided that I voted against one particular anti-Semitism resolution because I didn't agree with the wording of it. We've voted on dozens of them. And this was the thing that she pulled out. And when I came back, certainly it was outrageous in every possible way. And I kept my patience for as long as I could. The entire time she was there, she did not acknowledge the survivors. She did not show up prepared to answer our questions. And it was Darvo the entire time. So it was deflect, attack, and then reverse the victim and the oppressor. And to see her doing that in front of the victims of this horrible sex trafficking ring was just too much for me. And to see that what she was trying to accuse me of was anti-Semitism, of course, I lost it. But the other piece, I think, is based on what I was saying at the top. They were spying on us. So she knew, presumably, that I was looking at the records for Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick also happens to be of Jewish descent. Was this their way to try to discredit me and the line of questioning that I had? I don't know. But it certainly struck me as incredibly creepy and outrageous, frankly.
Well, Congresswoman, I actually wanted to ask you about your line of questioning with regards to Commerce Secretary Lutnick, who was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor and even had some business dealings with him. And he is the highest ranking member of the Trump administration to be just pretty mentioned quite frequently in the Epstein files. And Attorney General Bondi, she said that Lutnick had answered for it. And, you know, he's a good friend of Donald Trump. Unlike other officials in the UK or around the world, it seems as if there just aren't consequences in the United States. Is there any way, do you think, to pursue this further with regards to Lutnick?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think we have to. He appeared to have lied in earlier exchanges with Congress, saying that he had cut off all ties with Jeffrey Epstein back in 2005. Now we know that absolutely wasn't true. They had business dealings together. And then it turns out, actually, he went to Epstein's island. I would have thought the DOJ would be interested in asking him, what did you see while you were there? You had said back in 2005 that you thought that what was going on at his apartment next door was not on the up and up, and it gave you the creeps. You said that to your wife, and then you decide to go.
What you are seeing here is Republicans absolutely furious. They know they want a scapegoat. They want a sacrifice from Trump's office because, look, I'm sure a lot of them are thinking, man, couldn't we just get rid of Donald Trump? Maybe that would make our lives easier, but he's not going anywhere, and it's a heck of a lot easier for Trump to fire someone from his office or cabinet than it is to get rid of Donald Trump, right? So a lot of them are saying we need a sacrifice because the polling numbers are collapsing, and maybe if you fire somebody, it will act like a steam valve and release the pressure. They know a beat down is coming. And they are probably telling Trump in some weird language because he doesn't like hearing the truth. And he's acting like an effing idiot, and if he keeps going like this, it will be an absolute carnage mess for the GOP. And yes, I actually don't know if Donald Trump cares in a broad sense about the House because it's all about him. But I do think Republicans are warning him. They are like, you think the files and all that are bad now when Democrats don't control the committees? You think all of this is bad now? Imagine when people like Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett and Ro Khanna are in charge, and they will probably still give Massey a lot of prominence even if it's only on this issue. You think it's bad now? It's going to get so much worse. The Democrats are going to block all of our legislations, and if it goes bad enough, you are not going to be able to replace a Supreme Court Justice Donald. That's how bad this could go.